Good morning and welcome to another edition of Journeys with Joe. Today is Monday, June 21st, and it is a beautiful summer day out there. It's a little bit overcast, but it's very humid. It reminds me of the way that I know that I'm home in New England when I get off the plane. I get off the plane and the air is heavy and thick, and that reminds me that I'm near the ocean. That's something that I've grown up with and that I'll always want to have in my life. The first thing I'd like to share with you this week is the fact that over the past several months, I've become an investor. No, I'm not necessarily an expert in stocks and bonds, but I have become somewhat adept at understanding about investing in myself. And there are really three things that I invest in myself, and I strongly suggest that you do the same as well. Those are time, effort, and money. One thing that I've found is really important and is a lesson that I've learned over time is that others can't necessarily invest in you if you don't invest in yourself. You have to consider yourself worth the time and effort to put into yourself so that others will consider you worth their own time and effort. And so there are several things that I invest in myself. The first thing is time. Every day before other people get up in the morning, I do a routine, and that helps me to get myself centered, and it also helps me to improve myself, so I feel like I've accomplished quite a bit before 8 a.m. each morning. The other thing that I invest in is my effort, having a routine and having happy habits, reading the Bible every day, as well as exercising daily, doing my language lessons, praying, listening to affirmations. All of those things are very important. I consider those investments, and I don't feel like they're going down the drain. They're actually going into me, and they will make me a more valuable person for myself and for other people going forward. And then finally, it's important to invest a little bit of money in yourself. Sometimes you might need to refresh your wardrobe, make yourself look like somebody that you would want to hang out with, and also to make sure that you're investing in things that are going to help you improve. There are certain apps out there that are certainly worth paying for. For instance, I do pay for Duolingo. I also pay for ThinkUp and Headspace, and it's totally worth a very small investment for the very large return in what you get back from using those apps. So invest in yourself, invest time, effort, and money in order to improve yourself, and you will see the returns sooner rather than later. The second thing I'd like to share with you today is the advice to harness the power of positive thinking, to look forward and not to look back. There was a really wonderful lesson that we all learned this weekend watching the U.S. Open. Jon Rahm, a golfer from Spain, won the U.S. Open. It's his first major championship, and that is a life-changing event. But a lot of people who are not really closely following golf might not realize that 2 weeks ago, Rahm was well ahead at a specific tournament. It was at the Memorial Tournament on Saturday. He was 6 shots ahead, and unless he had a tragic meltdown on Sunday, he was going to win that tournament. However, after his round on Saturday, he was forced to withdraw from the tournament because he had tested positive for COVID-19. He never had any real symptoms or anything like that, but he was not allowed to continue playing in the tournament, and thus he probably lost about $1.2 million or more by not being able to win that particular tournament. However, he came back 2 weeks later and decided to look forward and prepare for the U.S. Open. And the U.S. Open, of course, is America's national championship. It is considered the most difficult major championship of all of the 4 major golf championships. And it takes a lot of guts and stamina and just stick-to-itiveness and ability to persevere and be patient in order to win the U.S. Open under some of the most challenging conditions that golfers can play in. And Jon Rahm was able to take what could have been a very bad situation for him, and he turned it into a positive. And he talked about that after the round yesterday, that one of the first things that he said was the power of positive thinking. And it reminded me of Norman Vincent Peale's book, The Power of Positive Thinking. And he decided to look forward rather than look back, which was a really good show of maturity on his part as well, because in the past he had been known for having certain temper issues, but he showed himself over the last 4 days in winning the U.S. Open to be mature and to be forward-looking and to make a positive out of a negative. So even though he wasn't able to win the Memorial, and he probably was going to win that tournament, he ended up winning an even bigger prize and winning the U.S. Open, which makes his career that much more secure and also gives him access to some very large tournaments over the next several years, an exemption on the PGA Tour, as well as a nice paycheck. So looking forward, harnessing the power of positive thinking, not getting caught up in the past, and trying to work with what you have, where you are, and do what you can is a really important lesson that I think we can all learn from when Jon Rahm was forced to withdraw just 2 weeks ago from a tournament, and then he comes back and he wins the U.S. Open. The final part of today's show is my soapbox, and this is where I'd like to share a message that was stated back in 1979 very simply and very plainly by a man who was much more influential than myself, and his name was Pope John Paul II. Pope John Paul II was from Poland, and he became Pope in 1978. He was the first Pope from a communist country, and in 1979 he visited his home country, and the communist authorities were in some ways hoping that he would arouse some kind of rebellion so that he could be discredited as trying to interfere in domestic Polish politics. However, Pope John Paul II was able to speak before millions of people in his home country, and he had a very simple message. It was 4 words in English, but I don't know exactly what it was in Polish, but he said, "Do not be afraid." And that is such a powerful and simple message in today's world. Do not be afraid. When we are afraid of things, it gives other people power over us and allows them to manipulate us. And over the past year and a half, a lot of people who are in positions of power have given us reasons to be afraid. And considering how things are improving, at least here in the United States, I think it's really important for us to remember at this point that the time for fear is past and the time for courage is here. Courage gives you power. Courage helps you to determine your own future and to make the choices that are best for yourself. So I would strongly encourage you to remember the message of Pope John Paul II in his visit to Poland in 1979. Do not be afraid. And I think that it may have a very positive impact in your life, but the Pope's message in 1979 led to events in Poland such as the founding of the labor union Solidarity, which in 1989 eventually led to the downfall of the communist regime and its replacement with a democratically elected regime. And so it's always so important. Remember these 4 words. Do not be afraid. Thanks again, everyone, for watching today's show. I hope that you have a wonderful week. May God bless you, and I will see you with my next video.